communities brick by brick, creating the jobs, the wealth, the tax receipts that means that we have the opportunity to change our country for the better. And I want to begin by thanking you for all of that. Because, look, I fully acknowledge, and I do acknowledge here, that this year, as we've had to fix the foundations of our country, deal with the unprecedented mess that we inherited, we've asked a lot of you. I understand that, and I want to acknowledge that. It has made a huge difference. Because of it, the money's gone into the NHS and waiting lists are coming down. We've put investment into the skills of our young people, the new homes, new roads, new infrastructure that we're building. They are all vital for the long-term growth of our country. But none of that would have been possible without your contribution. And I say thank you. It's what I mean by partnership. It's what I spoke about, Siobhan, 2 years ago when I last came here. Because for me, this is not just dialogue. It's a partnership of us all, the British nation, facing down the challenges of a volatile world together. And it's a more volatile world than I think many of us have seen in many years. And frankly, the more I see the way this world is changing, the more I see the future that we must build. And the more convinced I am about the need for this unity, a sense between us of shared national purpose. And that is, I believe, how we can rise again together. And mark my words, we will. Take the spending review. This is a clear shift in the nature of this government, beyond fixing those inherited problems and now investing in the future of our country. We've, as it were, wiped the slate clean, we've stabilised the economy, and now we can go on to the next phase of government, building on that foundation, building a fairer Britain, change and renewal that you can feel. And that means, of course, that we have to back you to the hilt, because your members are the engines of growth in every community across the United Kingdom. And that's the responsibility of partnership. And we want to be the best state partner for enterprise anywhere in the world, and to give you the best possible conditions to succeed. And I am optimistic about this. Now, don't get me wrong, I know that the trading environment is not easy. The challenges that you face are front and centre of my mind. When I'm sitting across the negotiating table with the EU, with the US, with India, whoever it is, trust me, I'm fighting for you. And politics is about who do you have in your mind's eye. But together, I do believe we've got to stop doing that British understatement thing. And we do it all the time, including me. Because believe you me, this is a great moment to get on the phone to the world and say, take another look at Britain. I was speaking to Jensen Huang the other week, CEO of NVIDIA, the largest semiconductor company in the world. And he was saying Britain is in a Goldilocks situation on AI, ready to take off, a really good place to be investing. You can see it with Amazon this week. A massive £40 billion investment in our country, one of the biggest investments that's ever gone in. Thousands of jobs created in Hull, in the East Midlands, in Northampton. Which means that since July of last year, we've attracted over £120 billion into our economy. Now, you will all get this and understand this straight away. But these are companies that can invest anywhere in the world. They don't have to invest here, but they're choosing Britain. And that's a sign of confidence in our plan for change, that we are a stable partner, that we are open for business, that we are putting our money in your customers' pockets. And real wages are up more in the first 10 months of this government than they were in the first 10 years of the Tory era. 380,000 jobs have been created. More demand for your goods and your services. More opportunities to boost your bottom line. Because, and this is crucial, as we fix those foundations, we also made choices that will make us a fairer, more prosperous country. For example, as Siobhan mentioned, 2 years ago at this conference, I set out that bold vision in relation to planning reform, then leader of the opposition, to remove the blockages in the system, to build the labs, the warehouses, the grid connections that all of your businesses need. And 2 years later, standing here, that vision is written into legislation. And we're pushing it through Parliament. And every day new spades are hitting the ground. Growth revised up because of it. A promise made to you 2 years ago. A promise delivered. It's the same with our industrial strategy announced earlier this week. For far too long, Britain ignored this. We didn't back businesses. We didn't invest in projects and technology that are critical to our future. Didn't have a plan that gave your businesses the certainty that you need. Well, now we have that plan. And it's been drawn up in partnership. And it is, quote, a significant step forward for our economy. That's not my words, they're Siobhan's words. And as she says, and this to me was the most important part in Siobhan's response on your behalf, that what you shared with us, what you fed in, has been, quote, heard and reflected in our strategy. Your fingerprints are on that strategy. It came out of the discussions that I and others have had with many people in this room. It wasn't plucked out of the sky by a government. It was reflecting back what you had told us needed to change. And that is what I mean by partnership, where both partners do different things, bring different things to the table. It's a statement shared by other leaders. What Siobhan said wasn't just what Siobhan thought, what you thought. It was the sentiments of the CBI, of Enterprise Nation, the Federation of Small Businesses, Make UK, Small Business Britain, and the Startup Coalition, backing British business with significant investment in R&D, new technical colleges across the country, electricity bills slashed for more than 7,000 businesses. That'll make a massive difference. So many people in this room and elsewhere have said to me, it's the energy costs here, they're not competitive across Europe, we have to find a way to bring them down. That's what we've been able to do, to boost our competitiveness. A promise that we made and a promise that we have delivered. And across the country, it's the same story. Stripping out regulation that blocks investment. Pushing forward with radical devolution agenda. Investing in skills and making sure that that's devolved. Unlocking pension wealth to back British business. Building new infrastructure, the length and breadth of our country. Carbon capture projects in Merseyside, in Scotland, and along the East Coast. Nuclear in Nottinghamshire and, of course, at Sizewell. Rail investment in Wales. A new runway at Heathrow. New metro schemes everywhere, from the North East to the West Midlands. Manchester, Sheffield and Leeds. And now today, another step. A new trade strategy that I am proud to launch at this conference, because there's no better place for that than with Britain's leading exporters, with you. It builds, as you would have expected, and of course, on the deals we've already struck with India, the United States and the European Union. The hat-trick, as I call it. And I've played defensive midfield all my life as a footballer. The last time I got a hat-trick, I think, was when the kids were about 7 and I could just about get the ball past them. So I'm going to take this particular hat-trick. But look, seriously, you don't need me to stand here and tell you how important these trade deals are. The EU SPS agreement on its own is a huge boost for food exporters and importers, driving down the cost base for retailers, reducing friction for our exports, a huge boost for the food industry. And I think a sign that partnership is not just empty rhetoric, that we're prepared to fight for your interests, prepared to make a political case for the growth and jobs that you can deliver. Small businesses, of course, as well as larger firms. And that EU-UK reset is so important on so many strands. There were 10 strands to that agreement. The SBS was one of them. There was the Defence and Security Partnership. Yesterday, I was at the NATO summit. We were increasing spending on defence across all of our allies. And because of the relationships that we've built, as people increase their spending, they're coming to us for discussion. They were doing it in the margins of the meetings yesterday, because they know that we have the ability to help them with the defence capability that they need to build. And it's therefore the EU-UK reset is about the strands that are in the deal, but it's also about the relationships that we're building that absolutely help and enable trade, and you will understand that. But that mindset is true of all the other deals. The US deal, hugely important for car manufacturing, particularly for companies like Jaguar Land Rover. And before we made the deal and after we made the deal, I went to Solihull, to JLR, a number of times to speak to the workers there and to look into their eyes. And I know how much it meant to them. Before the deal, they knew that trading at 27.5% tariffs into the North American market was really difficult. And they absolutely appreciated what that meant for them, for their jobs, for their families and their communities. And that's why when we got the deal done, when we got it over the line eventually last week, that signature, the CEO of JLR, Adrian Mardell, called me and made it crystal clear that thousands of jobs across the West Midlands had been saved. And then think of the supply chains that go with that, in logistics, in engineering, in freight. Think of the demand in the local economy, the cafes, the retailers, the pubs. And that is all true of that deal. It's why we had to be so focused to achieve that deal. The only country in the world to have got a trade deal with the US, something which we've been talking about for a very, very long time, is vital for the sectors that it protects. And that approach is true also of the India deal, again talked about for a very long time, but an unprecedented opportunity for UK PLC to access the world's fastest growing economy. And I've spoken to some of our whisky and gin distillers about the India deal, and they've told me that their concern now is whether they can produce enough to meet the demand. What a great problem to have. What a great problem. It's a huge win for them. And under the India deal, tariffs for our car manufacturers slashed from over 100% to just 10%. The best terms of any country in the world. A deal which people said could never be done. That actually is true of all three deals. They said it wouldn't be possible to get a US deal. It wouldn't be possible to get an EU deal. If you had a US deal, you had to choose between the two, and it certainly wouldn't be possible to get an India deal. And we've been able to get them, and that is brilliant for Britain and brilliant for you. And we'll go forward from here. And it's not just the terms of the trade deal. It's the signal that it sends about us, a transformation of our global brand. Because for years, the message the previous government was sending to the world was one of chaos, instability, the lack of courage to strike deals. Because when push comes to shove, in my view, they put politics before country. And together, we've now completely turned the page on that. With these three deals, we've rewritten our brand, restored our identity, that even in this volatile world, Britain is proudly, unashamedly, defiantly even, open for business. And today's trade strategy builds on that. We're going to keep pushing, keep making deals, keep opening up new markets for you. We're expanding the capacity of our export credit agency by £20 billion. And I know how important that is for everyone in this room. We're launching a new Ricardo Fund. We will reduce trade friction for professionals in engineering, architecture, accountancy, and so much more, opening up £5 billion worth of export opportunities. Because trade isn't just about goods. We're a services superpower. So we'll back our exporting services as well, show more flexibility in that approach. And what we want to do is push not just for traditional trade agreements, but also for smaller deals that we can make quicker at pace, whether that's a digital trade agreement with Brazil, Thailand or Kenya, clean energy cooperation with the Philippines and Mexico, professional qualification recognition all around the world. But perhaps, most importantly, in this uncertain and challenging world, we will also give ourselves new powers on trade defence. Make sure that if your businesses are threatened by practices like dumping, that we have the right powers to defend you. And I'm determined that Britain becomes a global champion for free trade. I'm determined that we are the beacon for those values. And frankly, I think our actions already speak louder than any words. But in a world where things can change quickly, as you've seen in the recent days, we've seen in sectors like steel that protection measures do need to be put in place, then we have to be ready to back British business. And that is what we've done on trade. That is what we will do in the future, right across our economy. Businesses creating wealth in every community, and a Labour government investing in the skills, the infrastructure, the future that we need to build. A partnership in the national interest, driving us forward, delivering change and renewal, putting more money in the pockets of working people. That is the change that we can deliver together, a Britain that is back in business. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Hi.
Grab a seat.
Thank you very much.
We're going to go from Goldilocks to Iran.
Very good.
They've now partially reopened their airspace. The ceasefire with Israel, it does seem to be holding, thankfully. But how concerned are you about the economic impact if there is a renewal of violence and prolonged instability across the region? How worried should you